Marcus Rodriguez pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway. His shoes made soft sounds on the shiny floor. The building was quiet now. All the office workers had gone home hours ago. Only Marcus was left, moving from room to room with his mop and cleaning supplies. He looked at his watch. It was past 9 at night. Marcus had been doing this job for 3 years now. Every night was the same. Empty the trash cans, clean the desks, mop the floors, make everything perfect for the next day. The Meridian Financial Tower was 50 floors high. Marcus worked on the top 10 floors where the important people had their offices. These floors had the best view of the city. Through the big windows, Marcus could see thousands of lights twinkling below. Cars moved like tiny ants on the streets far down. Marcus was 47 years old. His hands were rough from all the cleaning work. His back hurt most days from bending over to pick up trash and pushing the heavy cart. But he never complained. This job paid the bills. It put food on the table for his family. His wife Maria worked during the day at a small restaurant. She served food and cleaned tables. Their 2 children, Sofia and Diego, went to school. Sofia was 15 and very smart. Diego was 12 and loved to play soccer. Marcus wanted his children to have better lives than he and Maria had. Marcus came from Colombia. When he was young, his life was very different. He had not always been a janitor. In Colombia, Marcus had been a piano player. Not just any piano player. He had been very good. People came from far away to hear him play. Marcus remembered those days clearly. He would sit at the beautiful black piano on stage. Hundreds of people would watch him. When his fingers touched the keys, magic happened. The music would fill the whole room. People would cry sometimes because the music was so beautiful. He had learned to play piano when he was just 5 years old. His grandmother had an old piano in her small house. She taught him the first songs. Marcus learned very fast. By the time he was 10, he was better than most adults. His family was poor, but they saved money for piano lessons. Marcus practiced every day for hours. His fingers became very strong and fast. He could play the most difficult songs that famous composers had written hundreds of years ago. When Marcus was 20, he played in concerts all over Colombia. Music teachers said he was one of the best young piano players they had ever heard. Some people said he could become famous all over the world if he kept practicing and playing. But then everything changed. Colombia was not a safe place in those days. There was violence and danger everywhere. Marcus and Maria had just gotten married. They wanted to start a family, but they were scared. Many of their friends had been hurt or killed. One night, Marcus made a difficult choice. He and Maria decided to leave Colombia. They would go to America, where their children could be safe and have good schools. Marcus knew this meant leaving his music career behind. In America, no one would know who he was. He would have to start over completely. The trip to America was hard. Marcus and Maria had very little money. They could not speak English very well. When they arrived in New York, everything was strange and scary. The buildings were so tall. There were so many people. Everyone moved so fast. Marcus tried to find work as a piano player in America. He went to many places, hotels, restaurants, music schools, but no one wanted to hire him. They said his English was not good enough. They said he needed papers and certificates from American music schools. Some people were not nice to him because he was from another country. Month after month, Marcus looked for music work, but his money was running out. Maria was pregnant with Sofia. They needed to pay rent and buy food. Marcus had to find any job he could get. That is how Marcus became a janitor. At first, he thought it would just be for a few months. He told himself he would keep looking for music work during the day. But the months turned into years. Sofia was born, then Diego. The family needed Marcus to keep working every night to pay the bills. Marcus stopped playing piano. There was no time and no piano to practice on. His beautiful music stayed locked inside him. Sometimes Maria would ask him to play something, but Marcus would just shake his head. It hurt too much to think about what he had lost. Now, as Marcus cleaned the offices high above the city, he tried not to think about music. He focused on his work. Spray the desk with cleaner. Wipe it down. Empty the trash can. Move to the next desk. The same thing over and over, but tonight was different. As Marcus pushed his cart into the executive lounge, he stopped walking. There in the corner of the room was something he had not really noticed before. A beautiful black piano sat by the big windows. It was a baby grand piano. the expensive kind that rich people bought to show off. Marcus walked closer to the piano. His heart started beating faster. He had not been this close to a piano in 3 years. The piano was covered with a thin layer of dust. Nobody had played it in a long time. It was just sitting there like a piece of furniture. Marcus looked around the room. He was alone. The security cameras were in the corners, but they probably were not watching. Who would care about a janitor looking at a piano? Marcus reached out and touched one of the white keys. It made a soft, sweet sound. The sound went straight to his heart. For just a moment, Marcus forgot where he was. He forgot about his tired back and his rough hands. He remembered what it felt like to make music. But then Marcus pulled his hand away. He was just a janitor now. This piano was not for him. It belonged to the important people who worked in these offices during the day. Marcus picked up his cleaning supplies and got back to work. As he cleaned the rest of the room, Marcus kept looking at the piano. It seemed to be calling to him. The keys looked so perfect and white. Marcus remembered how his fingers used to dance across keys just like these. He remembered the feeling of creating something beautiful that could make people happy or sad or excited. Marcus finished cleaning the executive lounge and moved on to the next room. But he could not stop thinking about the piano. For the first time in years, the music inside him was starting to wake up. Marcus did not know it yet, but his life was about to change in ways he never imagined. The next night, Marcus tried to focus on his cleaning work, but his mind kept going back to the piano in the executive lounge. All day long, while he slept and when he woke up, he thought about those white and black keys. He thought about the soft sound the one key had made when he touched it. Marcus told himself to forget about the piano. He was a janitor now, not a musician. That part of his life was over. He had a family to take care of. He could not waste time dreaming about things that could never happen again. But when Marcus reached the executive lounge that night, his feet stopped moving. The piano was still there, waiting in the corner. The moonlight from the big windows made it look almost magical. Marcus set down his cleaning supplies and walked over to it again. This time, Marcus did not just touch one key. He sat down on the piano bench. It felt strange to sit at a piano again after so many years. His back was used to bending over cleaning supplies, not sitting up straight like a piano player should. Marcus looked at his hands. They were rough and had small cuts from cleaning chemicals. These were not the hands of a piano player anymore. But when Marcus placed his fingers on the keys, something amazing happened. His hands remembered exactly where to go. Marcus started playing very softly. He did not want anyone to hear him. The song he played was simple, one of the first songs his grandmother had taught him when he was a little boy. It was a sad song about missing home. As Marcus played, he felt like his grandmother was there with him again. The sound of the piano filled the quiet room. It had been so long since Marcus had heard music like this. Not music from the radio or television, but real music that came from inside a person's heart. His fingers moved across the keys like they had never stopped playing. Marcus played for just 5 minutes that night. Then he got scared. What if someone heard him? What if he got in trouble? Marcus quickly closed the piano cover and went back to his cleaning work. But for the rest of the night, he felt different. The music had woken up something inside him that had been sleeping for years. The third night, Marcus played for 10 minutes. The fourth night, 15 minutes. Each night, Marcus told himself he would not play. Each night, he found himself sitting at the piano bench again. The music was like a drug. Once Marcus started, it was hard to stop. Marcus began playing more difficult songs. His fingers remembered pieces by famous composers like Chopin and Mozart. These were songs he had performed in concerts back in Colombia. Songs that required years of practice to play correctly, but Marcus's hand still knew every note. One night, Marcus was playing a beautiful piece by Chopin. It was called Nocturne in E-flat major. This song always made Marcus think of peaceful nights and quiet dreams. As he played, Marcus forgot completely where he was. He forgot about the office building and his cleaning cart. He was just a man making beautiful music. Marcus did not know that someone was watching him. High up in a small room full of television screens, the night security guard was doing his job. Tom Chen had been working security at Meridian Financial Tower for 2 years. Most nights were boring. He watched empty hallways and empty offices on his screens. But tonight, Tom heard something strange coming through the building's sound system. It was music. Beautiful piano music. Tom looked at his screens to see where the sound was coming from. When he found the right camera, Tom could not believe what he was seeing. There in the executive lounge was the night janitor, playing the piano like a professional musician. Tom had seen this janitor many times on his cameras. The man was always quiet and careful with his work. Tom had never imagined that the janitor could play music like this. Tom turned up the sound on his computer. The music was incredible. Tom had heard piano music before, but never anything like this. The janitor played with such feeling and skill that Tom got goosebumps on his arms. This was not just someone who knew how to play piano. This was someone with real talent. Tom watched Marcus play for 20 minutes that night. When Marcus finally stopped and went back to cleaning, Tom sat in his chair feeling amazed. Who was this janitor? Where had he learned to play like that? Tom had so many questions. The next night, Tom waited to see if the janitor would play again. Sure enough, around 10:30, Marcus sat down at the piano. This time he played something different. It was faster and more exciting. Tom's heart raced as he listened. The janitor's fingers moved so quickly across the keys that Tom could barely follow them. Tom started recording the piano playing on his security system. He wanted to watch it again later. He wanted to show other people what he had discovered. But Tom was not sure who to tell. Would anyone believe him if he said the night janitor was an amazing piano player? For a week, Tom kept the secret to himself. Every night he watched Marcus play. Every night the music was different and beautiful. Tom learned that Marcus liked to play sad songs and happy songs. Sometimes Marcus played songs that sounded like they came from movies. Other times he played classical music that was hundreds of years old. Tom noticed that Marcus always looked around carefully before he started playing. The janitor was clearly worried about getting caught. Marcus would play for a little while, then quickly close the piano and go back to work. Tom could tell that Marcus loved playing the piano, but he was also scared. One night, Tom's friend Jake came to visit him during his security shift. Jake worked at a different building downtown, but sometimes he stopped by to chat when things were slow. Tom had been wanting to show someone the amazing piano playing, and Jake was the perfect person. "You have to see this," Tom told Jake. "Wait until about 10:30. You won't believe what happens." Jake was confused. "What are you talking about?" "This place is dead at night. Nothing ever happens here." Tom just smiled. "Trust me. Just wait." At 10:25, Tom pointed to the screen that showed the executive lounge. Marcus appeared with his cleaning cart. Jake watched as Marcus set down his supplies and walked over to the piano. "Is he going to clean the piano?" Jake asked. "Just watch," Tom said. When Marcus started playing, Jake's mouth fell open. The beautiful music filled Tom's security room through the speakers. Jake stared at the screen in shock. "Who is that guy?" Jake whispered. "That's Marcus, the night janitor," Tom said. "He does this every night. Listen to how good he is." Jake could not speak for several minutes. He just listened to Marcus play a song that sounded like it belonged in a fancy concert hall. When Marcus finished and went back to cleaning, Jake turned to Tom with wide eyes. "That was incredible. How long has he been doing this?" "I've been watching him for 2 weeks now," Tom said. "Every night he plays for about 20 or 30 minutes. I've never heard anything like it." Jake shook his head in amazement. "You have to show this to more people. This guy is too good to be just a janitor. Someone should know about this." Tom had been thinking the same thing, but he was not sure what to do. Should he tell his boss? Should he talk to Marcus directly? Tom did not want to get Marcus in trouble, but he also felt like the world should know about this amazing talent. "Maybe I could show the recording to a few people at work," Tom said. "Just to see what they think." Jake nodded. "You should definitely do that. This is too special to keep secret." Neither Tom nor Jake knew that their decision would change Marcus's life forever. In just a few days, the quiet janitor who played piano in the dark would become the most famous person in the building. But Marcus had no idea what was coming. He just knew that every night for a few precious minutes he could be himself again. He could be a musician. Tom Chen could not stop thinking about Marcus and his incredible piano playing. The next morning, when Tom's shift ended, he stayed at work a little longer. He wanted to show the recording to his supervisor, Mrs. Patterson. She had been working at Meridian Financial Tower for 15 years and had seen everything. "Mrs. Patterson, can I show you something interesting?" Tom asked. "I found something on the security cameras that I think you should see." Mrs. Patterson looked tired. She was getting ready to go home after working all night. "What is it, Tom? Is there a security problem?" No, nothing like that, Tom said. It's actually something good. Really good. Tom played the recording of Marcus on his computer. At first, Mrs. Patterson looked bored. She expected to see someone doing something wrong or breaking the rules. But when the music started, her expression changed completely. Mrs. Patterson sat down and listened to the entire recording. When it finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Who is this person?" she finally asked. "It's Marcus Rodriguez, one of our night janitors," Tom explained. "He's been playing the piano in the executive lounge every night for weeks. I had no idea he was so talented." Mrs. Patterson watched the recording again. She could not believe what she was seeing and hearing. "This man plays like a professional musician. Are you sure he's really a janitor?" Tom showed her Marcus's employee file on the computer. Marcus had been working at the building for 3 years. His job was cleaning the upper floors. There was nothing in his file about music or piano playing. "This is amazing," Mrs. Patterson said. "I have to show this to some other people. Is it okay if I share this recording?" Tom nodded. "I think more people should see this. This guy is too good to be playing alone in an empty office." By the end of that day, Mrs. Patterson had shown the recording to 5 other people. She showed it to the building manager, Mr. Williams. She showed it to Linda from Human Resources. She showed it to several other security guards. Everyone had the same reaction. They could not believe that a janitor could play piano so beautifully. Mr. Williams was especially impressed. "I've been to concerts at Lincoln Center that weren't this good," he told Mrs. Patterson. "Where did this man learn to play like that?" The recording spread quickly through the building's staff. People started making copies and sending them to their friends. By the end of the week, dozens of employees had seen the video of the mysterious janitor pianist. But the video did not stay with just the building staff. Linda from Human Resources showed it to her husband, who worked at another company in the building. He showed it to his coworkers. Soon, people on other floors were talking about the amazing janitor who played piano at night. Some employees started staying late at work, hoping to hear the music for themselves. They would find excuses to walk past the executive lounge around 10:30 at night. Most of them were disappointed because they could not hear anything from the hallway. The executive lounge had thick walls and doors, but a few lucky people did hear the music. Sarah from accounting was working late one Thursday night when she heard piano music coming from somewhere on her floor. She followed the sound and discovered that it was coming from the executive lounge. Sarah stood outside the door for 15 minutes listening to the most beautiful music she had ever heard. The next day, Sarah told everyone in her department about what she had heard. "It was like having a private concert," she said. "I felt like I was listening to someone famous, but it was just the janitor." Word spread even faster after that. People began planning to stay late just to hear the mystery pianist. The executive floor, which was usually empty after 6 o'clock, started having more people around at night. Marcus had no idea that he had become famous in the building. He continued his normal routine every night. Clean the offices, empty the trash, mop the floors, and then, when he thought no one was around, play the piano for 20 or 30 minutes. Marcus did notice that there seemed to be more people working late lately. Sometimes he would see lights on in offices that were usually dark. Sometimes he would hear people talking in the hallways. But Marcus did not think much about it. Maybe the company was just getting busier. One night, Marcus was playing a song by Rachmaninoff when he heard a sound outside the executive lounge. It sounded like people whispering. Marcus immediately stopped playing and closed the piano cover. He grabbed his cleaning supplies and pretended to be wiping down tables. Outside in the hallway, 3 employees from different departments were standing by the door. They had been listening to Marcus play and whispering to each other about how incredible the music was. "Did he stop?" whispered Janet from marketing. "I think he heard us," said Bob from sales. "We should be more quiet," said Michelle from customer service. The 3 employees waited for a few minutes, hoping Marcus would start playing again. But Marcus was too scared. He finished cleaning the executive lounge as quickly as possible and moved on to other rooms. The next night, even more people tried to listen to Marcus play. Some employees brought their friends from other companies. A few people even brought small recording devices, hoping to capture the music. Marcus became more and more nervous. He could sense that something was different. There were more sounds in the building at night, more footsteps in the hallways, more voices whispering. Marcus started to worry that he was going to get in trouble for playing the piano. For 3 nights, Marcus did not play at all. He cleaned the executive lounge quickly and moved on to other areas. The people who came to listen were disappointed. They waited and waited, but no music came. Tom Chen noticed that Marcus had stopped playing. On his security cameras, Tom could see Marcus enter the executive lounge, clean quickly, and leave without touching the piano. Tom also noticed that there were more people hanging around the executive floors at night. Tom realized that too many people knew about Marcus's piano playing. The secret was no longer a secret. Tom worried that all the attention might scare Marcus away from playing forever. But Tom was not the only one who had noticed the change. Some of the employees who had been coming to listen started leaving notes on the piano bench. The notes said things like, "Please play for us, and your music makes our day better, and we love listening to you play." Marcus found these notes when he cleaned the executive lounge. At first he was scared. People knew about his piano playing. He thought about quitting his job and finding work somewhere else. But as Marcus read the notes, he realized that people were not angry with him. They were not trying to get him in trouble. The notes were kind and encouraging. People actually wanted to hear him play. One note especially touched Marcus's heart. It was from a woman named Susan who worked in the finance department. The note said, "Dear piano player, I stay late at work just to hear your beautiful music. Yesterday was very hard for me because my mother is sick. But when I heard you playing, I felt peaceful for the first time in weeks. Thank you for sharing your gift with us." Marcus read Susan's note 3 times. He had not realized that his music could help people feel better. In Colombia, people used to tell him that his playing made them happy or helped them forget their troubles. Marcus had forgotten how good it felt to know that his music mattered to other people. That night, Marcus made a decision. He would not let fear stop him from playing. He would be more careful and watch for people listening. But he would not give up the piano again. Marcus sat down at the piano bench and began to play. He chose a gentle, hopeful song that he thought might make people feel better. As the music filled the room, Marcus smiled for the first time in weeks. Outside in the hallway, a small group of employees stood quietly listening. They smiled too. Their favorite part of the workday had returned. None of them knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Soon, the whole world would know about Marcus and his amazing talent. Within 2 weeks, everything at Meridian Financial Tower had changed. The building that used to be quiet and empty after 6 o'clock was now buzzing with activity at night. Employees from every floor found reasons to stay late at work. Some people said they had extra projects to finish. Others claimed they needed to catch up on emails. But everyone really wanted the same thing, to hear Marcus play the piano. The executive lounge became the most popular place in the building after dark. Every night, a small crowd gathered in the hallway outside the lounge. People would arrive around 10 o'clock and wait quietly for Marcus to start playing. They learned to be very silent so they would not scare him away. Marcus slowly got used to having an audience. At first, it made him nervous to know people were listening. But the encouraging notes left on the piano bench helped him feel more comfortable. People wrote things like, "Thank you for the beautiful music, and you made my difficult day better, and please keep playing for us." Some employees started making special requests. They would leave notes asking Marcus to play certain songs. A woman named Carol asked for something cheerful because she was having problems at home. A man named David requested classical music because it helped him concentrate on his work. Marcus tried to play what people asked for, even though he could not read all the English in the notes very well. The building's management noticed the change too. Mr. Williams, the building manager, saw that more people were staying late. At first, he worried that there was too much overtime work being done. But when he learned about Marcus and the piano music, Mr. Williams was amazed. "I've never seen anything like this," Mr. Williams told Mrs. Patterson. "People actually want to stay at work late. They're happier and more relaxed. Some departments are getting more work done than ever before." It was true. The employees who listened to Marcus play often felt inspired when they went back to their desks. The beautiful music made them feel calm and creative. People who used to argue with each other started getting along better. The whole atmosphere in the building became more friendly and peaceful. Linda from Human Resources started keeping track of all the changes. Employee satisfaction surveys showed that people were happier at work than they had been in years. Fewer people called in sick. Fewer people complained about their jobs. Some employees even said they looked forward to coming to work each day. "It's like Marcus has magical powers," Linda told her boss. His music is making everyone feel better about everything. The fame of the mysterious pianist began to spread outside the building. Employees told their friends and family members about the incredible janitor who played piano like a professional musician. Some people started calling Marcus the secret pianist of Meridian Tower. A few employees tried to take videos of Marcus playing with their cell phones. They wanted to share the amazing music with people who could not come to the building. But the sound quality was not very good, and the videos were dark and hard to see. Still, some of these videos were shared on social media and email. Marcus did not know about the videos or the social media posts. He did not have a computer or use the internet very much. He focused on his family, his work, and his music. Every night he looked forward to those precious 30 minutes when he could sit at the piano and let his fingers create beautiful sounds. Maria, Marcus's wife, noticed that her husband seemed happier lately. Marcus would come home from work with a small smile on his face instead of the tired, sad expression he usually had. When Maria asked him about it, Marcus just said that work was going well. Marcus wanted to tell Maria about the piano, but he was afraid. What if she thought he was being foolish? What if she worried that he would get fired for playing the company piano? Marcus decided to keep his secret a little longer, but keeping the secret was getting harder. One night, Marcus's daughter Sophia asked him why he was humming classical music while he made breakfast. "I don't know," Marcus said. "I guess I heard it somewhere." Sophia looked at her father carefully. She was a smart 15-year-old who noticed everything. "Dad, you've been different lately, happier. What's going on?" Marcus just smiled and changed the subject. But Sophia did not forget. She started paying more attention to her father's behavior. Meanwhile, at Meridian Financial Tower, the nightly concerts were becoming more organized. Employees started arriving earlier to get the best listening spots. Some people brought small chairs to sit on in the hallway. Others brought snacks to share while they waited for Marcus to start playing. A woman named Jennifer from the marketing department had an idea. She suggested that people could make small donations to show their appreciation for Marcus's music. The money could be used to buy Marcus a gift or help his family in some way. "This man is giving us something beautiful every night," Jennifer said. "We should find a way to give something back to him." Other employees loved this idea. Within a week, they had collected over $300. People were happy to contribute because Marcus's music had become such an important part of their lives. But nobody knew how to give the money to Marcus without revealing that they had been listening to him. They did not want to embarrass him or make him feel uncomfortable. The employees decided to wait and find the right opportunity. The piano requests became more creative. Someone asked Marcus to play Happy Birthday because it was their birthday week. Another person requested wedding music because they had just gotten engaged. Marcus tried to fulfill as many requests as possible. He enjoyed the challenge of playing different types of music. One night, an employee left a note in Spanish. The note said, "Thank you for bringing beauty into our lives. Your music reminds us that there is still magic in the world." When Marcus read this note, tears came to his eyes. It had been so long since someone had spoken to him in his native language about his music. The employee who wrote the Spanish note was Carlos, a security guard who worked during the day. Carlos was also from Latin America, and he understood how hard it must be for Marcus to work as a janitor when he had such incredible musical talent. Carlos started leaving more notes in Spanish. He told Marcus that his music was a gift from God and that he should be proud of his abilities. These notes meant everything to Marcus. They reminded him that he was not just a janitor. He was a musician who happened to work as a janitor. As the weeks passed, more and more people learned about Marcus. Employees told their friends who worked in other buildings. Some of these friends started visiting Meridian Financial Tower in the evenings, hoping to hear the famous piano playing. The building's security guards had to start keeping track of all the visitors who came just to listen to Marcus. Tom Chen, who had first discovered Marcus on the security cameras, became unofficial organizer of the evening concerts. "We need to be careful not to disrupt Marcus's work," Tom told the growing group of listeners. "He's still doing his job as a janitor. The music is just something extra that he's kind enough to share with us." Tom was right to be concerned. Marcus was starting to feel pressure from all the attention. Some nights there were 20 or 30 people waiting outside the executive lounge. Marcus could hear them whispering and moving around in the hallway. It made him nervous, but Marcus also felt something he had not felt in years. He felt valued and appreciated. The notes from listeners and the quiet applause that sometimes came from the hallway told Marcus that his music mattered. For the first time since leaving Columbia, Marcus felt like he was using his real talents. The building had transformed from a place of business into a place of art and community. People who had worked in the same building for years but never talked to each other were becoming friends. They bonded over their shared love of Marcus's music. Nobody knew that the biggest change was still coming. Soon someone very important would hear Marcus play, someone who had the power to change Marcus's life completely. But for now, Marcus was content to play his piano each night for his growing audience of office workers who had discovered that a little music could make everything better. Elizabeth Hartwell had not been sleeping well for months. As the CEO of Meridian Financial, she carried the weight of the entire company on her shoulders. Every night she lay in bed thinking about budgets, deadlines, and difficult decisions. When sleep would not come, Elizabeth often returned to her office to work through her stress. Elizabeth was 52 years old and had worked her way up from a junior analyst to become one of the most powerful women in finance. She was respected by everyone who worked for her, but the job was lonely and exhausting. Elizabeth spent most of her time in meetings, dealing with problems, and making decisions that affected thousands of employees. On this particular Tuesday night, Elizabeth could not stop thinking about a big merger that was causing problems. She decided to go back to the office to review some important papers. Elizabeth drove through the quiet city streets and parked in the empty garage under Meridian Financial. Tower Elizabeth had her own private elevator that went directly to the 50th floor where her office was located. As the elevator rose through the building, Elizabeth planned what work she would do. She would read the merger documents again and try to find a solution to the problems. But as the elevator passed the 40th floor, Elizabeth heard something that made her stop thinking about work completely. It was music. Beautiful piano music was floating through the building. The sound was faint, but Elizabeth could tell it was coming from somewhere below her. Elizabeth had been working in this building for 8 years, and she had never heard piano music at night before. She knew there was a piano in the executive lounge on the 40th floor, but nobody ever played it. The piano was just decoration, like expensive artwork on the walls. Elizabeth pressed the button for the 40th floor. She had to find out where this incredible music was coming from. When the elevator doors opened, the music became much clearer. It was coming from the executive lounge at the end of the hallway. Elizabeth walked quietly toward the music. She recognized the song. It was Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, one of the most difficult and beautiful pieces ever written for piano. Elizabeth had heard this music performed by famous orchestras in concert halls around the world. But she had never heard it played with such emotion and skill as she was hearing now. Elizabeth reached the executive lounge and looked through the glass doors. She could not believe what she saw. A man in a janitor's uniform was sitting at the piano, playing with the technique and passion of a world-class musician. His fingers moved across the keys with incredible speed and precision. His whole body swayed with the music as if the piano was a part of him. Elizabeth stood in the doorway, afraid to move or make any sound. She did not want to disturb this magical moment. Tears began to form in her eyes as she listened. The music was so beautiful that it touched something deep in her heart. Elizabeth had forgotten that music could make her feel this way. The man at the piano was completely focused on his playing. He did not notice Elizabeth watching him from the doorway. For 20 minutes, Elizabeth listened as the janitor played one masterpiece after another. Each song was performed perfectly, with feeling and technical skill that took decades to develop. When the janitor finally stopped playing, Elizabeth quickly stepped back into the shadows of the hallway. She watched as the man closed the piano cover, picked up his cleaning supplies, and quietly left the lounge. Elizabeth waited until she heard the janitor's cart moving down the hallway before she came out of hiding. Elizabeth went into the executive lounge and sat on the piano bench where the janitor had been sitting just moments before. She touched the keys gently, but she could not play piano herself. Elizabeth had always wished she could make music, but she had never had time to learn. Elizabeth stayed in the lounge for an hour, thinking about what she had witnessed. Who was this janitor? Where had he learned to play like that? Why was he working as a cleaner when he had such incredible talent? Elizabeth had so many questions, but she did not know how to find the answers. The next day, Elizabeth could not concentrate on her work. All she could think about was the mysterious janitor and his amazing music. During her lunch break, Elizabeth called the building's human resources department. "Linda, I need to ask you about something unusual," Elizabeth said to Linda from HR. "Do we have any janitors who are also musicians?" Linda was surprised by the question. "That's interesting that you ask, Ms. Hartwell. Actually, there's been a lot of talk lately about one of our night janitors who plays piano. His name is Marcus Rodriguez. The employees have been very excited about his music." "Tell me everything you know about this Marcus Rodriguez," Elizabeth said. Linda explained about the security camera footage and how Marcus had been playing piano in the executive lounge every night. She told Elizabeth about the crowds of employees who stayed late to listen and the notes of appreciation that people left for Marcus. "The whole building has changed since people discovered Marcus's music," Linda said. "Employee morale is higher than it's been in years. People actually look forward to coming to work." Elizabeth was amazed. She had been so busy with high-level business matters that she had not noticed this incredible situation happening in her own building. "Can you send me Marcus's employment file?" Elizabeth asked. "Of course, Ms. Hartwell, I'll send it to you right away." Elizabeth spent the rest of the afternoon reading about Marcus Rodriguez. His file was very basic. It showed that he had been working as a night janitor for 3 years. He was married with 2 children. His previous work experience was all in cleaning and maintenance jobs. There was no mention of any musical background or education. But Elizabeth noticed something interesting in Marcus's file. Under the section for languages spoken, Marcus had listed Spanish as his native language and English as his second language. The file also showed that Marcus was originally from Colombia. Elizabeth decided to do some research. She used her computer to search for information about musicians from Colombia. She found articles about the country's rich musical heritage and its many talented classical musicians. Elizabeth wondered if Marcus had been a professional musician in Colombia before coming to America. That evening, Elizabeth returned to the office again. This time she was not there to work. She wanted to hear Marcus play again. Elizabeth arrived at the building around 10 o'clock and took her private elevator to the 40th floor. Elizabeth hid in an empty office across from the executive lounge. She left the lights off and cracked the door just enough to see and hear what happened in the lounge. Elizabeth felt a little silly hiding like this, but she did not want to embarrass Marcus or make him uncomfortable. At 10:30, Marcus appeared with his cleaning cart. Elizabeth watched as he cleaned the lounge quickly and efficiently. Then, just as she had hoped, Marcus sat down at the piano. Tonight, Marcus played something different. It was a slow, sad song that Elizabeth did not recognize. The music was so emotional that Elizabeth felt tears on her cheeks again. She could tell that this song meant something very personal to Marcus. The way he played it suggested that the music came from his own experiences and feelings. After the sad song, Marcus played something lighter and more hopeful. Elizabeth recognized this piece as a famous composition by Chopin. Marcus played it with such joy and energy that Elizabeth found herself smiling in the dark office where she was hiding. Elizabeth realized that she was witnessing something very special. This was not just a janitor who happened to know how to play piano. This was a true artist who had somehow ended up working in a job that did not use his incredible talents. Elizabeth felt that this was wrong and unfair. As Elizabeth listened to Marcus play, she began to form a plan. She was the CEO of a major company. She had money, influence, and connections in the business world. Maybe she could find a way to help Marcus use his musical talents properly. But first, Elizabeth needed to learn more about Marcus's background and his story. She needed to understand how such a talented musician had ended up working as a janitor. Elizabeth decided that she would find a way to meet Marcus and talk to him directly. Elizabeth did not know that this decision would change both her life and Marcus's life forever. Sometimes the most important moments happen when we least expect them. Elizabeth had come to the office that night to solve business problems, but instead she had discovered something much more valuable. She had found a person whose talent and passion reminded her why beauty and art matter in the world. As Marcus finished playing and returned to his cleaning work, Elizabeth quietly left her hiding place and went home. But she would be back tomorrow night and the night after that. Elizabeth had found something that her successful but stressful life had been missing. She had found magic. Elizabeth Hartwell could not stop thinking about Marcus Rodriguez. For 3 days, she had been listening to him play piano from her hiding spot in the empty office. Each night, Marcus's music was more beautiful than the last. Elizabeth knew she had to learn more about this mysterious janitor who played like a master musician. Elizabeth decided to use all of her resources to investigate Marcus's background. As the CEO of a major financial company, Elizabeth had access to private investigators and research specialists. She hired a professional investigator named Robert Kim to find out everything he could about Marcus Rodriguez. "I want to know about his life before he came to America," Elizabeth told Robert. "I especially want to know about any musical training or career he might have had." Robert was one of the best investigators in the city. He specialized in finding information about people's backgrounds for companies that wanted to hire executives. But this case was different. Robert had never been asked to investigate a janitor before. Robert started his research by looking at official records. He found that Marcus had immigrated to America from Colombia 5 years ago. Marcus had entered the country legally with his wife Maria and had applied for permanent residency. The paperwork showed that Marcus had listed his occupation in Colombia as musician and piano instructor. This was the first real clue that Marcus had a professional musical background. Robert dug deeper into Colombian records, but it was difficult to find detailed information from another country. Robert decided he needed help from someone who knew about the music scene in Colombia. Robert contacted Dr. Patricia Morales, a music professor at Columbia University, who had written several books about classical music in Latin America. Dr. Morales was originally from Colombia and still had many connections in the country's music world. "I'm trying to find information about a pianist named Marcus Rodriguez who lived in Colombia about 5 years ago," Robert told Dr. Morales. "He would have been performing classical music." Professionally, Dr. Morales was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised Robert completely. "Marcus Rodriguez. I remember that name. He was quite famous in Colombia before he disappeared." Marcus was considered one of the most promising young classical pianists in South America. He performed with the Bogotá Philharmonic Orchestra several times. Many people thought he would become internationally famous. Robert could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Are you sure we're talking about the same person?" Dr. Morales described Marcus's appearance and approximate age. Everything matched the janitor who worked at Meridian Financial Tower. Marcus was supposed to compete in an international piano competition in Europe, Dr. Morales continued, but he suddenly stopped performing and disappeared from the music scene. Nobody knew what happened to him. Some people thought he might have been hurt in the violence that was happening in Colombia at that time. Robert asked Dr. Morales if she had any recordings of Marcus playing piano. Dr. Morales said she would check her contacts in Colombia and see what she could find out. 2 days later, Dr. Morales called Robert back. She had found something incredible. A friend at a music conservatory in Bogotá had sent her a recording of Marcus performing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 with the Bogotá Philharmonic Orchestra. The recording was from 6 years ago, just before Marcus disappeared. Robert listened to the recording and immediately recognized the style and skill. This was definitely the same person Elizabeth had been watching play piano in the office building. The quality of the playing was absolutely extraordinary. Robert had heard many famous pianists perform, but Marcus's playing was as good as any of them. Robert shared all of this information with Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard the recording of Marcus performing with the orchestra, she was amazed and heartbroken at the same time. Here was proof that Marcus had been a professional classical musician of the highest level. But now he was working as a janitor, cleaning offices and emptying trash cans. Elizabeth wanted to understand why Marcus had given up his music career. She asked Robert to find out more about Marcus's current life in America. What Robert discovered made Elizabeth even more sad. Marcus and his family lived in a small apartment in a poor neighborhood. Maria worked at a restaurant during the day, making very little money. Their daughter Sophia was a good student, but the family could not afford to send her to college. Their son Diego wanted to play soccer, but they could not pay for him to join a team. Marcus had tried to find work as a piano teacher or performer when he first arrived in America. But without American credentials or connections, nobody would hire him. Music schools wanted teachers who had degrees from American universities. Concert venues wanted performers who were already famous in America. Robert learned that Marcus had applied for dozens of music-related jobs in his first year in America. Every application was rejected. Marcus was told that his English was not good enough, or that he needed different qualifications, or that there were no positions available. After a year of rejection, Marcus had to find work to support his family. The only jobs he could get were cleaning and maintenance work. Marcus took a job as a janitor because it was the only way he could pay rent and buy food for his children. Elizabeth read Robert's report with tears in her eyes. She could not imagine how painful it must have been for Marcus to give up his music career. Marcus had been forced to choose between following his passion and taking care of his family. Like any good father, Marcus had chosen his family, but Elizabeth also felt angry. How could a society waste such incredible talent? How could someone as gifted as Marcus end up working a job that did not use any of his abilities? Elizabeth knew that this kind of thing happened to many immigrants, but it still seemed terribly unfair. Elizabeth decided she needed to meet Marcus in person. She wanted to hear his story directly from him, but she was not sure how to approach him. Elizabeth did not want to embarrass Marcus or make him feel uncomfortable about his situation. Elizabeth asked Linda from Human Resources to help her find a way to meet Marcus naturally. Linda suggested that Elizabeth could visit the building late at night and accidentally encounter Marcus while he was working. Just pretend you're there to pick up some files, Linda suggested. Then you can start a casual conversation with him. Elizabeth liked this idea. She planned to visit the building on Friday night. She would go to her office to pick up some documents, and then she would happen to run into Marcus while he was cleaning. But Elizabeth was nervous about the meeting. What would she say to Marcus? How could she let him know that she had heard him play piano without revealing that she had been spying on him? Elizabeth practiced different conversations in her mind, but she could not decide on the best approach. Friday night arrived, and Elizabeth drove to the office building. She took her private elevator to the 50th floor and spent some time in her office, looking through papers and preparing for her meeting with Marcus. Around 10:15, Elizabeth took the elevator down to the 40th floor. She walked slowly toward the executive lounge, carrying a folder of documents to make her visit look natural. As Elizabeth approached the lounge, she could hear the familiar sound of piano music. Marcus was playing a gentle, beautiful song that Elizabeth did not recognize. Elizabeth stood in the hallway for a few minutes, listening and gathering her courage. Finally, Elizabeth walked to the door of the executive lounge. She knocked gently on the glass door and waved to Marcus. Marcus immediately stopped playing and looked terrified. He jumped up from the piano bench and started to apologize. I'm sorry, Marcus said in accented English. I was cleaning the piano. I didn't mean to. Elizabeth held up her hand to stop Marcus from apologizing. Please don't worry, she said gently. I heard the music and I wanted to tell you how beautiful it sounds. You play very well. Marcus looked confused and frightened. He did not know who this well-dressed woman was or why she was in the building so late at night. I am Elizabeth Hartwell, Elizabeth said, extending her hand to Marcus. I work here in the building, and you must be Marcus Rodriguez. Marcus shook Elizabeth's hand nervously. He still did not understand what was happening. Was he in trouble for playing the piano? Was this woman going to report him to his supervisor? Elizabeth could see that Marcus was scared, so she tried to put him at ease. Marcus, your music is wonderful. I have been listening to you play for several nights and I wanted to meet you. Would you be willing to talk with me for a few minutes? Marcus was still confused, but he nodded. He sat down on the piano bench and Elizabeth sat in a chair nearby. This was the moment that would change everything for both of them. Marcus sat on the piano bench looking nervous and confused. He kept glancing at his cleaning cart, as if he was thinking about running away. Elizabeth could see that Marcus was afraid he was in trouble for playing the piano during work hours. Marcus, please don't worry, Elizabeth said in a calm, gentle voice. You are not in any trouble. I came here tonight because I wanted to talk to you about your music. I've been listening to you play and you are incredibly talented. Marcus looked at Elizabeth with surprise. He had not expected her to say something positive about his playing. You like the music? Marcus asked in his careful English. I love the music, Elizabeth said. Marcus, I have been to concerts all over the world, and I have never heard anyone play piano as beautifully as you do. Where did you learn to play like that? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He was not used to talking about his music with strangers, especially with people who seemed important and wealthy like Elizabeth. But something about Elizabeth's kind manner made Marcus feel like he could trust her. "I learned in Colombia," Marcus said slowly. "When I was young, my grandmother taught me to play. Then I studied at the conservatory in Bogota. I used to perform with orchestras and in concerts." Elizabeth nodded encouragingly. "You were a professional musician in Colombia?" "Yes," Marcus said, and for the first time there was pride in his voice. "I played with the Bogota Philharmonic Orchestra. I gave concerts in many cities. People said I was good. They said I could become famous, and what happened?" Elizabeth asked gently. "Why did you stop performing?" Marcus's expression became sad. He looked down at his hands, which were rough and scarred from his cleaning work. "Colombia became very dangerous. There was violence everywhere. Maria and we were scared for our children. We had to leave." Elizabeth listened carefully as Marcus told his story. His English was not perfect, but Elizabeth could understand the pain and sacrifice in his words. "When we came to America, I tried to find work as a musician," Marcus continued. "I went to many places. Music schools, restaurants, hotels, but nobody wanted to hire me. They said my English was not good enough. They said I needed American certificates and degrees." Marcus paused, and Elizabeth could see tears forming in his eyes. "I had to choose," Marcus said. "I could keep looking for music work and let my family be hungry and homeless, or I could take any job I could find to take care of my wife and children. So I became a janitor." Elizabeth felt her heart breaking as she listened to Marcus's story. She could not imagine having to give up something you loved and were brilliant at, just to survive in a new country. "Do you miss performing?" Elizabeth asked. Marcus looked at the piano keys. "Every day," he said quietly. "When I clean these offices, I think about the concerts I used to give. I remember the feeling of playing for hundreds of people who loved the music. But that life is finished now." "It doesn't have to be finished," Elizabeth said. Marcus looked at her with confusion. "What do you mean?" Elizabeth took a deep breath. She had been planning what to say, but now that the moment had come, she felt nervous. "Marcus, I have something to tell you. I am the CEO of this company. I own this building." Marcus's eyes went wide with shock and fear. He started to stand up from the piano bench. "Oh no. I am so sorry. I should not have been playing the piano. Please don't fire me." "Marcus, sit down," Elizabeth said firmly but kindly. "I am not going to fire you. I want to help you." Marcus sat back down, but he still looked terrified. "I have been researching your background," Elizabeth continued. "I know about your career in Colombia. I found recordings of you performing with the Bogota Philharmonic Orchestra. Marcus, you are not just good at piano. You are extraordinary. You are one of the most talented musicians I have ever heard." Marcus stared at Elizabeth in amazement. He could not believe that this important woman knew about his past and cared about his music. "I want to offer you a new job," Elizabeth said. "I want to create a position for you that uses your real talents. I want you to be our company's first artist in residence." Marcus did not understand what Elizabeth meant. "Artist in residence? What is that?" Elizabeth explained her idea. "You would give concerts for our employees during lunch hours and after work. You would help create cultural events for the company. We would install a proper concert piano for you to use, and you would be paid much more than you make as a janitor." Marcus could not speak. The offer seemed too good to be true. After years of cleaning offices and emptying trash cans, someone was asking him to be a musician again. "But why?" Marcus asked. "Why would you do this for me?" Elizabeth thought about her answer carefully. "Marcus, your music has already changed this building. I've seen how happy it makes people when they listen to you play. Employees are working better and feeling more positive because of your music. That has value for the company." Elizabeth paused, then continued. "But there's another reason. It's wrong for someone with your talent to be wasting it cleaning offices. America is supposed to be a place where people can achieve their dreams if they work hard. You worked hard, but the system failed you. I want to fix that." Marcus was quiet for several minutes. Elizabeth could see that he was thinking hard about her offer. "My English is still not perfect," Marcus said finally, "and I have been away from professional music for 3 years. Maybe I am not good enough anymore." "Marcus, I heard you play tonight and every night this week," Elizabeth said. "Your skills are as good as any professional musician in the world. As for your English, we can help you with that. The important thing is your music." Marcus looked at the piano, then back at Elizabeth. What about my family? We need money to pay rent and buy food. Can this job really pay enough? Elizabeth smiled. Marcus, I'm going to pay you more in 1 month as an artist in residence than you make in 6 months as a janitor. Your family will be financially secure. Your children will be able to go to college. For the first time since Elizabeth had met him, Marcus smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. If I say yes, Marcus said, what happens next? Elizabeth had already thought about this. First, we announce your new position to all the employees. They're going to be thrilled because they already love your music. Then we order a proper concert grand piano for the executive lounge. We'll also set up a small concert area where you can perform. Elizabeth continued explaining her plan. I want to organize your first official concert within 2 weeks. We'll invite music critics and reporters. I want the whole city to know about your talent. Marcus looked overwhelmed but excited. You really think people will want to hear me play? Marcus, Elizabeth said, the employees in this building already stay late at work just to listen to you play a dusty old piano in an office lounge. When you have a proper concert piano and a real stage, you're going to amaze everyone. Elizabeth stood up and extended her hand to Marcus. So what do you say? Are you ready to be a musician again? Marcus stood up and shook Elizabeth's hand. Yes, he said, and his voice was stronger than it had been all evening. Yes, I am ready. As they shook hands, both Elizabeth and Marcus knew that this moment would change their lives forever. Marcus would finally get the chance to use his incredible talent, and Elizabeth would have the satisfaction of knowing that she had helped make someone's dreams come true. The janitor, who had been meant to play piano as a joke, was about to become the most celebrated musician in the city. But first there was work to do. 2 weeks later, everything had changed for Marcus Rodriguez and everyone at Meridian Financial Tower. Elizabeth had moved quickly to transform her idea into reality. She created a new position called Director of Cultural Engagement and hired Marcus at a salary that was 5 times what he had been making as a janitor. The first thing Elizabeth did was order a beautiful Steinway concert grand piano to replace the old piano in the executive lounge. When the new piano arrived, Marcus touched the keys with tears in his eyes. He had not played on such a high-quality instrument since his last concert in Colombia. Elizabeth also hired contractors to renovate part of the executive lounge into a proper performance space. They installed special lighting and sound equipment. They arranged comfortable seating for an audience of 50 people. The space looked like a small concert hall. The employees at Meridian Financial Tower were thrilled when they learned about Marcus's promotion. They had been listening to his music for weeks, and now they would have official concerts to attend. People started signing up immediately for the lunch hour performances that Elizabeth planned to schedule. But Elizabeth had bigger plans than just office concerts. She wanted the whole city to know about Marcus's incredible talent. Elizabeth contacted music critics from major newspapers and invited them to Marcus's first official concert. She also called her friends who supported classical music and the arts. Marcus spent the 2 weeks preparing for his debut concert. He practiced on his new piano for hours each day, getting used to the feel of the keys and the sound of the instrument. Elizabeth hired a professional music coach to help Marcus prepare and to give him confidence. The music coach, Dr. Sarah Williams, was amazed by Marcus's abilities. Elizabeth, this man could perform at Carnegie Hall, she told Elizabeth after Marcus's first practice session. His technique is flawless, and he plays with more emotion than most famous pianists I've worked with. Marcus was nervous about performing in front of critics and important people. He had not given a formal concert in over 3 years. But as he practiced, his confidence returned. His fingers remembered every piece of music he had ever learned. His passion for playing was stronger than ever. Elizabeth planned Marcus's debut concert for a Friday evening. She invited 50 people, including employees from the building, music critics, and influential people from the arts community. Elizabeth also invited Marcus's family to attend their first concert in America. When Marcus told Maria about his new job and the upcoming concert, she could hardly believe it. You mean you're going to be a musician again? Maria asked with tears of joy in her eyes. Yes, Marcus said, holding his wife's hands. Elizabeth said that people want to hear me play. She said that my music has value. Sophia and Diego were excited about their father's concert. They had never seen Marcus perform professionally. Sophia helped Marcus pick out a formal suit to wear for the concert. Diego told all his friends at school that his father was going to be a famous musician. The night of the concert arrived. Marcus stood backstage in the small area behind the performance space, wearing his new black suit and tie. His hands were shaking with nervousness. Elizabeth came to talk to him before the concert began. "Marcus, are you ready?" Elizabeth asked. "I think so," Marcus said. "But what if I make mistakes? What if people don't like my playing?" Elizabeth smiled. "Marcus, I've heard you play dozens of times. You never make mistakes, and everyone who hears you falls in love with your music. Tonight will be no different." Elizabeth looked out at the audience that was gathering in the performance space. All 50 seats were filled. Music critics sat in the front row with their notebooks ready. Employees from the building filled the other seats, excited to finally see Marcus perform officially. "It's time," Elizabeth told Marcus. Marcus walked onto the small stage to enthusiastic applause. He could see Maria, Sophia, and Diego sitting in the second row, beaming with pride. Marcus had not felt this happy and nervous at the same time since his last concert in Colombia. Marcus sat down at the beautiful Steinway piano and adjusted the bench. He looked out at the audience and saw dozens of friendly, expectant faces. These people wanted to hear him play. They believed in his music. Marcus began with Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, the same piece he had played on his first night at the old piano. But now, with the proper instrument and formal setting, the music sounded even more beautiful. The concert hall acoustics carried every note perfectly to the audience. As Marcus played, he forgot about his nervousness. He forgot about the critics and the important people in the audience. He became lost in the music, just as he had during his secret late-night performances. His fingers danced across the keys with grace and power. The audience was completely silent during Marcus's performance, hanging on every note. When he finished the Chopin piece, the applause was thunderous. Marcus smiled and moved on to his next piece, Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. For 45 minutes, Marcus performed a program of classical masterpieces. Each piece was played with technical perfection and deep emotional expression. The audience was mesmerized. Even the professional music critics seemed amazed by what they were hearing. When Marcus played his final piece, the entire audience stood up and applauded for 5 minutes. Marcus took several bows, his face glowing with happiness and pride. Maria was crying with joy. Sophia and Diego were cheering loudly for their father. After the concert, people surrounded Marcus to congratulate him and ask him questions. The music critic from the New York Times told Marcus, "I haven't heard piano playing this extraordinary in years. You have a gift that the world needs to hear." Elizabeth watched from the side of the room as Marcus talked with admirers and reporters. She felt incredibly proud of what they had accomplished together. In just 2 weeks, they had transformed a janitor into a celebrated artist. The newspaper reviews of Marcus's concert were incredible. The New York Times called him a musical genius who reminds us that extraordinary talent can be found in the most unexpected places. The Wall Street Journal wrote, "Marcus Rodriguez proves that America's greatest strength is recognizing and nurturing talent, regardless of where it comes from." Within a week of the concert, Marcus received offers to perform at major concert halls across the country. Record companies wanted to sign him to recording contracts. Music schools invited him to give master classes and teach students. Elizabeth helped Marcus navigate all of these new opportunities. She hired a professional manager to handle Marcus's bookings and contracts. But Elizabeth made sure that Marcus would continue to give regular concerts at Meridian Financial Tower for the employees who had first appreciated his music. Marcus's story became national news. Television programs and magazines wanted to interview the former janitor, who had become a classical music sensation. Marcus appeared on morning shows and evening news programs, telling his story and playing piano for millions of viewers. The success changed Marcus's family's life completely. They moved from their small apartment to a beautiful house in a good neighborhood. Sophia was accepted to a prestigious university with a full scholarship. Diego joined an elite soccer team and excelled in school. But the most important change was in Marcus himself. He had his confidence and his sense of purpose back. He was using his greatest talent to bring joy to people's lives. Marcus felt like he was finally the person he was meant to be. 6 months after his debut concert, Marcus performed at Carnegie Hall in New York City. The concert sold out within hours. Elizabeth sat in the front row. watching with pride as Marcus played for an audience of 2,000 people. As Marcus took his bows at Carnegie Hall, he looked out at the audience and thought about his journey. He had started as a young boy learning piano from his grandmother in Colombia. He had become a professional musician, then an immigrant janitor, and now an internationally recognized artist. Marcus knew that none of this would have been possible without Elizabeth's kindness and vision. She had seen his talent when he was just a janitor playing piano alone at night. She had believed in him when he had stopped believing in himself. After the Carnegie Hall concert, Marcus and Elizabeth talked backstage. "Thank you," Marcus said to Elizabeth. "Thank you for giving me my life back." Elizabeth smiled. "Marcus, you gave me something too. You reminded me that business success means nothing if we don't use it to help people achieve their dreams. Your music has made all of our lives better." Marcus returned to Meridian Financial Tower the next week to give his regular lunch hour concert for the employees. These performances were still his favorites because they reminded him of where his American dream had really begun. As Marcus played for his colleagues who had become his first American audience, he thought about how strange life could be. He had been hired as a janitor, meant to clean offices and empty trash cans. But someone had heard him play piano as if it were a joke, something impossible to believe. That joke had become the most beautiful reality of Marcus's life. The janitor who was meant to play piano had indeed driven the CEO crazy enough to change everything and give a man his dreams back. Marcus's music filled the office building where his new life had begun, and everyone who heard it knew they were listening to something magical. Dreams really could come true, even in the most unexpected ways.